Masterpiece of shit. Well, that's certainly a new term I've never heard before. Let's get into cult films here, folks. Here are its reviews. Hi there, folks. Welcome back to Rich Reviews, and it's Cult Film Week here on this channel. And I want to discuss with you a film called You Don't Nomi, and this is directed by Jeffrey McHale, who tries to tell you that Showgirls is the greatest masterpiece of all time, which is news to me. Basically, and this is also partially based on a book from Adam Weinard, whose book was called It Doesn't Suck. Now, basically, the director sort of opens this film by basically saying, hundreds of films are released every week that are terrible, that are immediately forgettable. But of course, there are certain films that rise above its badness and just become celebrated for being so bad. It has to be celebrated no matter what. And obviously, Showgirls at the time, when it was released in 1995, I think it made $20 million here, $15 million overseas. So it was like 35 on a $45 million budget. Clearly it bombed. Obviously online, you can watch the Siskel and Ebert episode in which they discuss Showgirls, in which Roger Ebert was sort of like, yeah, this is a bad film, but Gene Siskel clearly took this film to the woodshed, and how calling it the G-string of All About Eve. Any cult film, you know what you're getting into, and like certain cult films rise above. I think this film clearly is on strong footing when it discusses the careers of, Paul Verhoeven, the writer Joe Esterhaas, and Elizabeth Berkley, and how Paul Verhoeven helped and sort of invent Dutch cinema. He was then driven out of Dutch cinema and had to go to Hollywood, and most of the time, foreign filmmakers hoped to go to Hollywood. Basically, Hollywood rescued Paul Verhoeven, and he made the highlight of Verhoeven's career was indeed, RoboCop, Total Recall, and a couple other films before that. Obviously hooked up with Esterhaas on, Total Recall. Then they made together Basic Instinct. Obviously that film sort of strained their relationship. They repaired it, then made Showgirls with Elizabeth Berkley. Now obviously Verhoeven is a very fascinating figure, and how he's always mixed sex with violence, and obviously when the violence is in the forefront is always a better film than with the sex part. To a lot of people, Basic Instinct is a perfect mixture of the two, although it goes into Hitchcock territory that they claim, and how obviously, yes, the LGBT community was up in arms with the film. I think Sharon Stone later on was like, yeah, that's not a film that I would make again. Obviously, Joe Esterhaas, he wrote Flashdance. Hey, look, they brought us Jennifer Beals, but the film itself is not all that great. And then, obviously, Elizabeth Berkley, who, came off of Saved by the Bell, and then who thought to herself, okay, I can become something bigger with this film. I want to graduate to feature films and whatnot. And obviously, McCall, McLaughlin, Gershon. The film obviously is garbage here, folks. I'm sorry to tell you that. The film sort of damaged careers of, all three participants, although Verhoeven did Starship Troopers and Hollow Man. I'm more a fan of Starship Troopers and Hollow Man. Before reclaiming himself by going to Dutch cinema again and finding success there. Esterhaas hasn't wrote another film since then. Berkley feature film career has been destroyed. She went back to television. And then I guess there's obviously the afterlife of this film here, and this is where the film just really loses me. I mean, there are people that are here to tell you, oh yes, there's obviously symbolism here, there's obviously meaning in these scenes that we discuss. And I'm like, okay, if you say so. It's like, oh yes, the dog food scene. Okay. The chips, the nails, like her name, Nomi. Obviously, people obviously believe that there is symbolism, there's meaning here. There are people that clearly believe that there's meaning in The Shining. I think one of the more celebrated cult films of all time is The Room. I can name also, another cult film that's bad, Somewhere in Time, that's more celebrated. So Berkeley, for a very long time, had to live with this, and has managed, I don't know if managed to come to terms is the appropriate phrase, but she's at least happy it's found some new life, particularly when the gay community. I know there is a standalone sequel that has nothing to do with the other participants, and how in 2015 there was a screening where 4,000 people showed up and Elizabeth Berkley gets a standing ovation. And I know at least at Seattle Film Festival in recent years, Kyle MacLachlan was interviewed for Lifetime Achievement, and obviously he brought up Showgirls, and he was like, oh yes, we intended to make a serious, hard-hitting film. And Elizabeth Berkley in recent years was like saying, yes, we're trying to make a comedy in general. You know, and again, I have like my own cult films. I won't mention them here. So in the end, folks, I'm going to be generous with this ranking. I'm going to give this a matinee ranking because I think clearly if you are interested in bad cinema and you want to see bad cinema celebrated, please watch this film. So folks, You Don't Know Me. Have you seen this? What did you think? Are you actually a fan of Showgirls? So folks, enrich yourself with knowledge. I'm Michael Rich Reviews too. I'll see you next time, folks. Yes, hooray.